Welcome to All About the Experiences. This episode marks a very pivotal moment for me because today's guest is someone who I've watched and admired for many, many years on the television screen as well as the big screen. He is a successful producer, film and television actor. He is known for his roles in films such as Collateral, The Wood, and Why Did I Get Married? And Why Did I Get Married Too? His television credits include, but not limited to, Judging Amy, Girlfriends, Hawaii Five-O, and he currently portrays Wade Gray on ABC's The Rookie. Now, by now, you should have even picked up who I'm talking about. But now he is ultimately blessing the All About the Experiences platform. And before I get ahead of myself, I would like to introduce Richard T. Jones. Welcome, Richard, and thank you so much for coming on All About the Experiences.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me. I tell you, Henry said you were thorough.
Gotta be thorough. Look, I
Yes.
have Hollywood's elite right here with me, and just someone who we have all come to know through our television screens as well as on the big screen. But it is a humongous honor to have you on the All About the Experiences platform.
The honor is mine. I thank you for inviting me. This is going to be fun. I'm very excited. Just don't hurt me too much. I tell you, interviews always get me a little nervous, but I'm trusting you tonight. So
I appreciate that trust, and I don't take that lightly. Well, let me just start off by saying this, as many people that have come on the platform, known and unknown, I love to find out something. I always ask a very pointed question. And
okay.
Obviously, we know you as an actor extraordinaire and a producer, and we'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
But I have to ask this question, and it's kind of paying homage to one of my mentors.
Mm-hmm.
Did you choose acting, or did acting choose you?
Ooh, that's a very, very good question. Did I choose acting? No.
Okay.
Not at all. I was going to school to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to be a lawyer.
Wow.
And yeah, I happened to go to Tuskegee University in Alabama.
Yes.
Go Tuskegee.
Go Tuskegee.
And it was my first time away from home. So I was from California. I went to Alabama. I went to this very small town in Alabama, Tuskegee, which is probably 2 blocks, 3 blocks long.
Yes.
Only thing there is the campus. And I kind of, I wanted to taste my freedom for the first time. So although I had an academic scholarship, I wasn't doing very well academically.
Uh-oh.
So I end up on the dean's list for getting kicked out of college. Yeah, my first semester. Okay, I partied a little bit too much. I didn't join the frat, but I loved their parties. Put it that way.
I got you.
Okay, so the second semester, I had to do something because I had very hard classes. I had a lot of psychology classes. I had a lot of political science classes. I said, hey, it's too much. I'm going to have to get rid of that and get some electives on my schedule. So one of the electives that I picked was this monologue class. It was a class that focused on reading certain monologues and dissecting them and then reciting them in front of class. I figured it can't be too hard. I figured, hey, I want to be a litigator one day, so this will help me with my openings and my closings. This makes sense for me. Let me take this class. So met a couple friends of mine in this class. Didn't know they were taking it. Next thing you know, we sat in the back. We started talking, shirting it up a lot. When it came to the homework, I still had a problem partying. So when it came to the homework, but at least now I was going to class. The first semester, I had a hard time getting to class. Now I'm starting to go to class.
Okay.
So now I'm going to class and I'm remembering while I'm walking through the quad that, oh, I have an assignment due today. I'm supposed to be reciting a monologue today.
Oh my.
And didn't even look at it. So you see me studying, reading this monologue, walking across the quad. And from for some divine reason, I always put it divinely because it's mysterious, I would retain these monologues well enough that when I went before the class, I was actually pretty decent. And my teacher saw something in me. He said, "Look, man, you're pretty good at this. Did you know that?" And I said, "Okay, no." He says, "Well, we're doing a play, and I would love for you to come and audition for this play." And I said, "Where are you doing a play?" He said, "What are you talking about? At the Playhouse?" And I said, "Hold on, we got a Playhouse?" I
You're
was
like, I
like,
didn't even know.
"Yeah, exactly. Where is this thing?" And he said, "Well, it's on the other side of campus. You never been?" I said, "No, I had no idea." And he
There
said,
were
"Well,
no
look, man,
parties over there. That's why.
that's right. Come to find out, that's right." And he said, "Well, I would love for you to come over and audition." And I said, "Thanks for the offer, but no thanks. It's not my thing." He said, "Look here, man, you talk a lot in my class." And I said, "Oh." He said, "So you could get a B or you can get a D." And I said, "Are you blackmailing me? I'll see you tonight." That's exactly what he said.
There
"I'll
it
see you tonight."
is.
And literally, that was then I had to go. I couldn't afford another D. I told you I was on the D list for getting kicked out. So I couldn't afford another D.
I
And
understand.
so I went to this audition. They happened to be doing Raisin in the Sun. They wanted me to, right? I didn't even know what it was. Okay.
You
I was
didn't
like,
know?
no, at the
You
time I
hadn't
did
seen
not
the
know.
movie or anything.
Nothing at the
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And I considered myself a movie buff, but I was very like, I like John Hughes movies and all the movies that I grew up with. I didn't watch classics.
Gotcha.
And so we're doing Raisin in the Sun. I auditioned for the small part Bobo. I end up getting it, of
Wow.
course. And I'm sitting there miserable because at this time of day, this is when actors, when we did plays, we had to rehearse for like 3 months. It wasn't like 3 weeks now. It was like 3 months. So we rehearsed for 3 months, knowing that people are partying every single night, and I'm stuck at these rehearsals every single night.
You were missing out, huh?
Way too much. I was missing out on way too much, and I didn't like it, and
I
I didn't like it.
understand.
So so anyway, so I'm sitting there. I'm learning everybody's lines because Bobo has a very small part in it. So I'm learning everybody's lines, just sitting there watching these great performers. I didn't know much about acting, but I knew these people were good. And I was like, what am I doing here? These people are good. What am I doing on this stage with these people? And and I tell you, the teacher who was the director of the play was very hard to get along with. Okay, so he was a very difficult man. So
Uh-oh.
I didn't like one of the reasons I said no in the classroom is because I didn't like him very much. Okay. I didn't like him very much. So I was like, look, man, nah. But him and the lead actor would get into it all the time. So
Mhm.
he was playing Walter Lee, and they would go into these rants about who was right, who was wrong. I want to do it this way. I want you to do it that way. Anyway, he left. He was like, so I'm done. Right. He wasn't in his class, so he can bribe him with a D or so he left.
He's like, I'm out of there.
Um, yeah, but he was like, look, well, we got Richard in the back. I can hear him reciting everybody's lines because that's what I would do in the back. Just like sit back and blah 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 and recite everybody's lines. And he's like, so I know he knows your role. He can play it. Oh, well, really? Blah blah.
Wow.
That being said, so he gives me this role, and I'm just like, what are we doing now? Right now, it got real. Now it got real because we're about to go on and we're performing. I was dating a little girl at the time, and I said, "Oh yeah, I'm doing a play." And I had my boys. They said, "Oh man,"
Little swag.
and they were like, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna come check it out." Now at this time, I only had a small part, so I would go in there, couple scenes, in and out, right?
Right.
So I was like, I was happy with that, and I could boast in that. But now he wants me to play the. I'm like, oh no, 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 no. He's like, oh man, you'll be fine. Now all the words that I knew, I now forgot. All the
Oh,
all the. I literally would have a blank. I was like, wait a minute, I can't remember a line, and we're about to go on. Now it's opening night. We're about to go on the stage. I can't remember a line,
so
and I
stage
knew
fright is a
all these
real
lines.
thing.
It is a true thing.
Wow.
But now the curtain's going up. I have no choice.
Okay.
And I go out on this stage, and all I can tell you is this. I remember stepping out on the stage, and then it was over. The show was over, and big applause, a round of applause, and we were going out for a curtain call. Could not tell you how I did. My first performance, I couldn't tell you anything about it. I
Wow.
wish I could. All I know is I blacked out, and I came to, and standing ovation.
So you went
And
into a zone then.
I went into a mad zone. Now when I go to a zone, I know how I'm zoning. Now, back
Gotcha.
then, I had no idea. And I woke up, and for the first time in my life, I'm sitting on this stage, I'm getting this applause, and I have a vision, like an open vision of my life.
Wow.
And I sit there and say, oh my goodness, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Wow.
I said, I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm gonna play a lawyer. I said, I get it, because it all came back to me. The only thing I really understood about law is what I saw in the movies. And so I was like, I loved, what I'm saying? I love law movies and law shows, LA Law at the time. And I
Right.
loved those shows, and I loved like movies that had to do with the law. I said, but that was the only thing I knew about law, because every time I would go and really go into the pre-law of things, I was quite bored. I was like, "This is all you guys do? It's a lot of reading."
It's a lot of reading.
It's a lot of reading, a lot of writing. I was like, "Oh
Yes.
no." I said, even as a litigator, you don't really get to. You're just kind of stating the facts,
Right.
you know. But Yeah, so I literally said, "Oh, this is what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life," and I didn't have a choice in it. So that's how I know I didn't pick it. I knew, like I knew my name. Oh,
There you go.
this is the road you're supposed to take. This is the road you're going to take. This is the road that you really don't have no choice to take. This is the road that's going to lead to everything you want in life. And I said, "Oh, okay." And
That's
from that point
profound.
on, I went full steams ahead, and I tell you, I ended up leaving Tuskegee, going to an acting school. I went to the Academy of Dramatic Arts, and that was back in LA. I auditioned in Atlanta. When I went out to Atlanta, auditioned, I still had to wait for like a year before I got into the college.
Wow.
So I would audition for plays. I would get these plays. I mean, I was like 100 for 100 at one point. I couldn't miss a thing. Every time I opened my mouth, I got the part. I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And it picked me. I wish I could say, I wish I had any involvement in it other than, but no, I was strictly a passenger in this whole thing. And but acting grabbed me, took me in, and said, "Okay, this is what you're doing, and enjoy the ride." And I have. It's given me the life I could only dream of.
I love that. It sounds very divine. And
Yeah.
I know that you are a man of faith. And
Yes.
so, with that being said, I feel like just based on this journey of you going to Tuskegee and HBCU and essentially gaining your acting chops there. And, I feel like it sounds like the Lord made that path for you. And look
Because I
how,
didn't want to go there either. I didn't want to go there. It was like, yeah, I wanted to stay in LA. And I tell you, I had no interest of going there. Let me tell you something. I'm gonna give credit to my mom. I have to give a shout out to Miss Laureen Jones
yes, ma'am. You have to
because
take the shots there.
she took me to Tuskegee. We drove from LA to and she said, I'm gonna drop you off. We got there, could not stand it. I was like, oh no, I can't go here. This is not for me. This is not for me. And she said, what are you talking about? I said, no, Mom, this is not gonna happen. I can't do it. She said, okay, I'm gonna make you a deal. You stay one night. Okay, give it a shot. Stay a
Right.
night. I'm going to the hotel anyway. In the morning, we'll have breakfast. If you're still set against it, then we'll pack it. We'll go home.
Okay.
Ah, okay. I said, I don't know why we have to do this deal. I'm telling you right now, I'm going home.
You're
I
like, I'm
said,
going
but
back to Cali.
I'll honor this deal. Okay, fine. So I go in the room. I'm up all night. I'm like, I'm not having fun at all. I'm just sitting there like, my roommate's over there. I don't want to talk to him. I said, dude, he's like, hey, man. So I said, look, man, there's no need to get to know me because I'll be gone in a couple of hours. I'm not even going to tell you in 24 hours. Probably in about 10 to 12, I'm going to be out. So, hey, man, congratulations. You're about to have this room to yourself.
Wow.
Okay. He was like, wow, okay, dude, that's all right. So morning comes, I call her, I ring this hotel, probably before I ring it at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm just like, I'm just waiting for a reasonable time, even though 7 is not really reasonable. But it's hot already. I'm calling you. 7 o'clock. Goes to the front desk. Hello. I said, yeah, can you ring 108 again? Okay. Goes to the front desk. I said, hold on. I said, can you check to see if 108 has like a do not disturb on their phone? Because I know it's
Right.
early. She was like, oh, let me check. She's like, hold up, 108? She's like, oh no, she checked out early.
Mama, no.
I said, what do you mean? She said, yeah, she checked out about, it looks like 4:30 in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Left me.
Mama said, I'm going
Left
back to
me.
Cali.
She left me.
You know why? She said, my baby's got it. He's going to be just fine.
He's going to be just fine.
He's going to be
Left
just
me.
fine.
And I sat there and was like, heat Ed. Wouldn't pick up the phone for like 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, even though after probably week 1, I had settled in and was having the time of my life.
Right.
But she still wouldn't pick up the phone after this because she was making sure
Because she
that
wanted
I
to make
wasn't
sure
calling.
you were good. So that
And
goes to the old adage, mama knows best.
You know, so when you say it was divine, yes, it was. Because if she never left me, I would have never almost failed out. If I didn't
Wow.
almost fell out, I would have never got to the class. If I wasn't talking enough in the class, I would have never got blackmailed. And I tell you, it was all for the. And what's funny is Mr. Little, that's his name. I actually remember his name. I was like, Mr. Little. It he retired now, but
Okay.
I never got to really thank him in person. I thanked him through other people, but you know, he changed my life. He was a vessel that God used to change my life, and I will always appreciate and honor him for that.
That's amazing. I often think about people who have been so instrumental in the direction that I'm going in, even before we started on the live, just talking about being in that space and owning who you are, and you have people that breathe life into you. And, my mother, God rest her soul, she used to always say, and I also have a mentor that said the same thing, is that we lift as we climb. And so
that's right.
Very pointed, right?
Yeah,
And so
yes.
I think about you in your body of work that I know I think about the wood. I remember a bunch of my girlfriends and we cut school to go see the movie.
Really? Oh, look
We
at that. All
did. We
right.
did. I have a little rebel in me too, but
Oh, okay. I'm about to
yeah.
say, because I'm saying right now we're not really preaching anything good for people like, hold up. So they got all this stuff by breaking the rules.
Well, I'll say this. It's about following your experiences and much like what you did, you
Yeah.
never knew what that was going to lead to. And then you have this now amazing, stellar career that I'm certain that you're lifting as you climb because I see the amazing other actors that you, I'm sure, are pouring into. And I'm a firm believer that folks that we come in contact with, we leave something with them, but we also take something from them, right? And I'm
Amen.
sure I'm going to be forever changed after this conversation. I won't even call it an interview, a conversation that we're having. So
Yes, I
that's
agree totally. I know it's all about giving and receiving, and I tell you, you're absolutely right. If people are in exchange, we're going to exchange goods, and what they say. You know, when you have back in the day, you would have to exchange goods, and I believe conversations are a midst of that expression. We're exchanging goods, and we're both growing from this particular conversation. So I totally agree. And
awesome.
please continue.
Well, yes, sir. So, I mean, obviously, your body of work it speaks for itself, but then
Mhm,
also there's, I always say we're all very multifaceted. I mean,
mhm,
you are a husband and a father, and obviously, in an entrepreneurial spirit, you have your own production company. So, tell me a
mhm.
little bit about that. I hate to use the term because it's something we're all familiar with, but work-life balance. But how do you balance all of these different hats that you wear?
You learn as you go. It's one of those things where, people say, "Oh, were you ready to be a father?" I said, "No." I don't think
Right.
anybody's ready.
No
I
one is ready
mean,
for that job.
no, nobody's ready for the job. I wasn't. It's like, "Oh, were you ready?" To go in front of the camera. No, you might think you are, but are
Right.
you ready? No, because it's all about the experience. So,
Can
when
you
people
say
say,
that
"How do
one more
you?"
time for me? It's all
It's
about the
all
what?
about the experience. It's all about the experience.
There
Look
it
at that. You
is.
like,
I like that.
and I tell you, so it comes, I'm not, of course, like I said, I'm learning to this day. I learn, sometimes I get in work mode too much, and my wife has to say, "Hey, I need some attention."
Right.
And I say, "Oh, okay, my bad."
Right.
Um, and then being a father, my kids are older now, so I was just actually on the phone with my daughter before you called because she's about to do this singing. She got accepted into the singing contest where it's like
Um,
she's a young songwriter and singer,
right.
and she was picked out of 1,000 young people to
Um,
be to enter this contest. Anyway, so she's one
Congratulations
out
to
of
her.
12. Thank you so much. So she's talking about what photos she needs to use. So we're sitting there like, but she's 25 now, so it's just like, look, this is what I think, and she agrees with me, but then she doesn't agree with me because she
Right.
wants, because it's an older picture, she wants to do something like fresh, and I said, look. I get you. I get you want to be all glam and all that. I said, but this is a songwriter. This is a singer-songwriter competition. They want to see, they want to get connected to who you are.
Mm,
So I said, I think this picture, it represents who you are.
okay.
It's a gorgeous picture and it's engaging. It makes people say, okay, she has something to say. And she's like, I hear you. But I said, look here.
But
Do
dad.
you. Exactly. Do you. You
Right.
25. You know what I'm saying? Whatever makes you comfortable. Because look, this is my opinion. I'm right, but it's my opinion. I told her that too. I said, look, I'm not always right. I'm just right about these things usually. I said so.
I
But
got you.
do you
Right.
be you? But it's one of those things that was I prepared for it earlier on the day that I was going to have this conversation? No. Did I know exactly what I was going to say when I was looking at these pictures? Some pictures I'm looking at like, oh no, I get why you're choosing this picture, but you're my daughter, so no.
You're like, dad says no on that one. You're
But
like, it's
I
a
see
no.
why. I see why, as a business person, you would
Right,
think, but
right. Yeah,
nah, not my baby. I don't want the. I don't need no dudes looking at you coming at like that. She's
right.
already married anyway, but it's like, that was already hard enough. Get walking her down the aisle. It was funny because my pastor, who's a spiritual father, he he married my daughter and her husband,
Okay.
and it's like, who gives this woman to be married to this man? And I said, I do. And then you pass your daughter off to the man, and
Right.
I kind of like it took like it was like a good beat. And everybody looked at me like, you gonna let go? Like my wife, my
You're like,
daughter
that's
was
my
like,
baby.
yeah, exactly. Are you gonna let go? And I didn't know that was going to happen. I didn't the whole time I was really cool and I knew, hey, all right. But at that moment, I was like, whoa,
Right.
hey, it just, so but because she was the firstborn, so you're like, oh man, you remember, and then all rushes back.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all I can say is I was there.
You know
Was
what?
I
And
great? I don't know, but I was there.
that means the most. I can say this. So my daughter, much like
Uh-huh.
yours, she's in the same age bracket. She's 27. She's
Okay.
not quite there as far as she'll probably kill me for saying that, as far as getting married. But at one point when she was in a very serious relationship, and I was like, "You're too young," and she's like, "Mommy, didn't you get married at 19?" And I was just like, "We're not talking about me right here, okay? This is not about me, okay?" And I was just like, and I'm still married, but I'm just saying
Yeah,
it's still it's a lot, it's you want to lead and give them the space to make their choices and mistakes,
right.
but then also you also want to protect them. And I get that, not wanting to let go. So
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
it's
It's like,
very hard. It's very hard, which leads me to this.
okay,
So when you are playing a role
yes.
and something is present, or let me, even before you're playing the role, let's say
Mhm.
a script is presented to you and you're reading through the script, and what is that process like for you in making that choice on whether or not you're going to accept this role, pass on this role? And I heard somebody gave me a little insight that about a role that you and Cuba Gooden Jr. were up for, and Jerry Maguire.
Yes. Oh
So
my
tell me
goodness.
a little bit about that. I mean, these are things that I didn't know until today. So,
Okay, okay.
okay.
Yeah, I was young in my career. I was very young in my career, and of course, he was young in his career, but he had did Boys in the Hood, of course. He had did Gladiator, and he was on the rise.
Right.
I was at the beginning, you're right. But I happened to have a couple good auditions for Jerry Maguire, and they didn't really know if they wanted Cuba yet. They liked him, but they really didn't know um, if he was right for it because he was little, and they would have to change some things for him.
Right.
But he wanted the role super super bad. Okay, so I remember auditioning, and I was like, oh, I'm about to murder this thing. And I was very, very confident
I
young man.
love the
I,
confidence.
so I was like, oh, I was murdering this thing. I said, yo, this is going to be the game changer in my career. I knew reading this movie, if I do this movie, it's going to change my life. Not knowing about the Oscar. I wasn't even thinking about Oscar. I was just thinking
Right.
about doing this movie. And it's down to me and Cuba. And it's like a screen test. So I'm just like, and then I get a phone call. And they were like, look, you're absolutely wonderful. Everybody loves you. They said they have one note for you. I said, all right, give me the note. They said, and it's a weird note. I don't know how to explain it. This is my agent,
Okay.
but this is what the note was. I said, okay. Can you be more black?
Wait a minute.
yeah, yeah. That, I had the same
Oh,
expression. I said,
I'm like, wait, say what now?
yeah, yeah, my exact response. Say
Okay.
what now? I said, say what now? Can you be more black? I said, okay, obviously you don't know what you're saying. So do you mean more street? Do you want the character? No, no, no. He's not streety with the college. They just want to know if you could be more black. So, and then he gets, and I said, and he said, I don't know what that means. Let me call her because it's getting bad for me. So he calls her, and she's like, yeah, yeah. Can he be more black? I said, what do you mean black?
What does that mean?
Well, yeah, what does that mean? And she was like, I don't know. You know, it's like, black football player. Just, you know. I said, what do you mean? Like arrogant and ass? No, no, no. He's a nice guy. He loves his wife. And I said, okay. After a while, it got to a point where I was like, something. Okay, I got you. I'm just gonna do it my way because I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So I don't get the role. I'm doing a movie in London at the time. So I get this other movie. I'm doing the movie in London, and Jerry Maguire comes out. I'm upset because I murdered this audition. Okay.
Right.
Even with her note that was bad, her description of her note that was bad, I still murdered it. I was like, I can't believe I didn't get this role. I said, I want to see what Cuba did. It must just because he was in Boys in the Hood, because there's no way he beat me for this role because I was that good. Okay,
Right.
I was that good.
You're like, I was that good.
I was that good. And I watched the movie. I'm in London watching this movie. I leave the movie and I say, yeah, he beat me. Like he beat me. I said, and now I know what the note was. Oh, you wanted to be more flamboyant. That was the note for him to be more flamboyant, to be more like Deion Sanders, more, like
So why wouldn't they
cocky.
have just given you a person to reference or some
That's
some
what that's
reference point?
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I said, what do you mean? And I think the casting director didn't know how to put it,
Didn't
and
know how to
didn't know
articulate it at all, sounds like.
at all. But I was just
Right.
like, oh, that's what they meant. I said,
Gotcha.
now, and I said, and I see why the role needed it. So I said, okay, because I did it. I was confident. I just did it differently. I was more like, I wasn't like,
Gotcha.
I was just more real with it.
Right.
I wasn't over the top with
You
it
were like,
like
I was
like it
being
was.
black. I was
Yeah,
being
yeah, exactly. I said, look, you ain't gonna get no more. I said, hold on, it's me and Cuba. And you think, can I be more black? I said, I can't be more black than, I said, I'm much more black than Cuba. So, I said, so I don't know what you mean by be more black, but that's okay.
gotcha.
But it changed his life. I remember testing with Don Cheadle. It was between me and Don Cheadle for Devil in the Blue Dress.
Oh wow.
I tell you, I missed some roles that changed, like, because that role changed his life. And I remember, like, oh man, and I didn't get that role, and they gave it to Don. Now that role, Don, if you're listening, I should have been that role. I was that. Look, even Denzel came to me and was like, "Yo, man, you murdered that thing. You should have got it, but you weren't right for it." He said, "You're too young. You're too tall. It doesn't make sense. The character's name's Miles. He's little. We grew up together. You're too young. But if we're just going on acting, you should have got the role." And
What is that like to hear from Denzel Washington to tell
oh
you
my goodness.
you should have gotten a role?
Oh my goodness. And not only tell me, he like, cause we were like, I was out to dinner with a friend of mine. So we were like walking and I'm just like, yo, man, I got the audition for Denzel I'm telling him the story, right? He's like,
Right.
oh, you didn't get it? I said, no, but we screen tested. I got to work with him. And he was like, yeah. He was like, yeah. I said, it was amazing. And then he comes walking in and he's having dinner. He's
Wow.
having dinner with Bob Johnson. And I'm sitting there like, oh man. I said, oh, there's Denzel over there. He's like, yo, go talk to him. I'm like, no, I ain't gonna go up and talk to him, man. I'm sitting there like, we're like young, right? This man walks over to me and he says, hey man, your name's Richard, right? I said, yeah. He said, yo, man, I just wanted to come over. And then he told, like I just said, he was like, look, you were too young. You wasn't right for the role, but I just want to let you know you should have got the role." And he said, "But you didn't." He said, "And but I wanted to come over and tell you, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, man." He's like, "So just keep going. I'm sure I'm gonna see you again because you know what you're doing." I said, and my boy sitting there like,
Wow.
Denzel, I said, I'm sorry, Denzel, but can you say hi to my?" He's like, "Oh, you gonna put me to work?" He said, "All right." So he went over there. He's like, "Oh, hey, what you
I
doing?" And
love
I was
that.
like, "Oh." And he said, "Matter of fact, come over and meet Bob Johnson." So I met Bob Johnson for the first time. It's still when he owned BET
Right.
before he sold it and all that. And yeah, it was one of those experiences. I tell you, growing up in the industry, it's just like I happen to work with great actors. Penny Marshall directed me in one of my first things. I worked on What's Love Got to Do with It with
Yes.
Angela, who's lovely, and Fish. Fish. I got the honor to be in 2 movies with him, and it's just amazing. I remember seeing Lawrence Fishburne for the first time, and he came in, and we're at rehearsal, and he came in, and he said, "Oh," he's like, "Yo, you ready? You ready, Larry? Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's do this." Yeah, boom, and he popped in the character. I was like, I need to go back to school. I was looking at it like, I need to go back to school. I said, "Oh, it's like that when you get to the set." I said, "Oh no." So I just been I ended up working with Tom Cruise in Collateral,
Wow.
which was another good one for him and Jamie, of
I've
course,
met
Jamie
Tom
Foxx.
Cruise before, by the way.
Have you met Tom Cruise?
I have. So when I worked at a insurance company in San Diego, he and Wayne Gretzky were looking to
Okay.
invest into our insurance company. And being a part of the executive assistant team, we knew we had some special folks coming on. And he was standing in the elevator. We knew we had locked down the elevators, and unbeknownst to me, he happened to be in the elevator that I walked into, and I was already halfway in there. And I was just like, oh boy, okay, what am I doing? And so the first thing that comes out of my mind, I was like, hey, and he goes, hey, you. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you're this short. Why that came out of my mouth? Why? I was like, why? What is happening with my mouth? I was mortified at the fact that I said that. And I was just like, and he goes, you're kind of short yourself. And I'm like, wow, did I just say that? And everybody was like giving me daggers, and he thought it was funny. Got a hug from him and everything. But,
Now, tell me something. Tell me something. Now that you met, because very few people I know have met him. Now you've met him.
yes,
Do you understand why he's a superstar just by meeting him?
I do. I
You know,
Well, I'll say this. I feel like, and this is only because I had conversation. I think he's very charismatic.
there you go. That's what. Yes.
Yeah,
Did
very
he did
charismatic.
did you tell him your name and he remembered your name at the whole time?
He did actually. Now that I think about it, but of course I was bringing uh accoutrement and waters and things like that. So you might want to remember my name, but yeah, it's amazing. This is the one thing I'll say, and I can even say
Okay.
this about you too, is that when you're on this side of the screen and you get to take in all that you put out there, right, for us to kind of go on these journeys of these stories that are being told. And when you're a great actor like yourself, I can forget that you're Richard T. Jones, the man, and see you
Mhm.
for each character. And I mean, I've watched a lot of your work. So that's why even
Oh
sitting
wow.
here, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, you know what? This is somebody that I can definitely see myself hanging out with, our families coming together and we have a meal and that kind of thing. But what that says to me is a lot of the different elements and different characters that I have seen on the screen, big and small, come from deep within. And I imagine that you pull all of that, I mean, all of your experiences that you've had in life and pour into those characters as well, because I can forget who you are as Richard T. Jones, the man, and see you exactly for each one. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm one of those people who will watch when it comes on BET. Why did I get married? To I kind of use that as a little bit of my marriage counseling at one point. Yes, but when I say that, we can all see a little bit of ourselves in
That's
characters, right?
that's right. That's right.
And even though in Why Did I Get Married? I felt a way about the character, but I can appreciate that because it also shed light on a lot of different subject matter that
Mhm,
tends to be a little taboo, quite frankly, in our community. So thank you
mhm.
for transcending who you are and really being true to the characters that you play.
Right.
And
Let me tell you, that was a very hard character for me to play. I tell everybody the truth. The truth is, I turned it down 3 times. I really
did
didn't want
you
to play that guy.
really?
Oh my God. I turned it down three. I really didn't, not because of anything that was wrong with the script or anything. It just, I didn't want to play the guy. I
I got
really didn't want to play Mike. And it took an enormous amount of prayer.
you.
And when I say prayer is because I was saying no,
Right.
but God kept saying yes. And I was like, look here, no, yes. And they kept calling. I was like, why do these people keep calling me? I said, no, why do they keep calling me?
Because you
And,
embodied that role. Let me tell you, you embodied it. And what I loved, and I'm going to tell you this, is the reckoning, if you will, at the end when he recognizes, like, I messed up.
mhm,
I missed
mhm,
out on a good woman because I couldn't see past this outer shell. And,
mhm.
and I thought that this was what I wanted, but this is truly what I see. And I was just like, I'm here for that. I was here for it all. I was here for it all. And it's nice to know that you're not
Man.
that character too. So
Oh yeah, yeah. It was one of those things where, and thank I thank Tyler so much for just, keep pulling things out. Um
absolutely.
and just making it worse and worse. I used to be like, "Come on, man, you're killing me," And I used to apologize to Jill after every take. I'm so sorry. I don't know, and she'd be like, "Stop apologizing," and I was like, "Look, I'm sorry. I really, really did not like Mike.
But
I've done some messed up things in life. Nothing that bad. You
you're
know what I'm
like
saying? You
nothing,
like,
nothing like that.
I said, "Come on, man. This is foul." And he was just like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, but I want you to go deeper. I want you." And I used to be like, "Oh man." And so it was hard to watch even at the premiere. I was like this the whole time. I
Let me
didn't,
ask you, do you ever have anybody like just in passing or other actors that have seen you like in that character as Mike and say, you know what, I saw myself in that character and it helped me change my life or take a different path?
I do get that a lot. I wouldn't say necessarily from Mike, other than I have seen guys come up to me and they've been like, "Look, man, I know that guy, that dude, man. I got friends who are Mike. So hey, I haven't met the Mike, or I have met a dude who claimed to be like, but he wasn't trying to change. He was like, nah, and I was like, oh, come on, man,
He's
don't
like,
be
I'm
that
just
dirty.
that dude.
Yeah, yeah. And I said, don't be that dirty. You gotta be better than that. But I got what blessed me the most is I think I freed a lot of women.
Yeah, you did.
So they saw their man in that character, and they were like, wait a minute, yeah, there's something better out there for me. I don't need this. So I get that from women after they smack me a couple times. Then they don't smack me in the face. They smack me in the chest. But after that, then they say,
Right.
"But thank you." Like all right.
Well, I think it was
So
very
that's a good.
courageous to play that role. And also, it was important for us, and when I say us, our community, to see
Mhm,
those depictions. And also,
mhm.
I feel like it's a catalyst for change, and it's also a catalyst for healing, for sure.
That's
So
right. That's right. Both
thank you for being
exactly.
courageous in doing that.
Look at
Absolutely.
that. Once again, there was something that I didn't choose that chose me.
There
which,
it
and
is.
I'm so happy it did. I'm so happy it did. Those are the best choices in my life are the ones I didn't choose. So,
I'm here for that. So let me ask you this.
mm,
When you started your production company, and I know that you do a lot of faith-based projects, what was it that just inspired you to go that route? Because I mean, you have a huge body of work in just on the acting side of things,
mm,
but what was the catalyst in making you say, hey, I want to look at this from a producer through a producer's lens and
mm,
start this part of my journey, if you will?
mm. When it came to producing, I kind of, I kind of always understood this. I understood I was going to produce movies that were going to be, I like to say, faith friendly,
Yes.
um, because I think those are the movies that really speak to people. There's an element and a spiritual principle in the movies that we love to watch. The
Mhm.
movies that are very successful, they have a principle in them that usually is biblical or something related to faith. The Matrix, I can mention a bunch of movies. You sit there and say, it's
Mhm.
it's a story about a Messiah. You know what I'm saying? It's a Messiah story. You look at movies like even the Titanic, and that movie is about the power of a testimony and the power of prophecy. Because basically, it's an old woman telling her testimony of a man who prophesied to her once. She met a man that she fell in love with, but the most important thing is he saved my life because he prophesied to me and said, "You're going to grow old, you're going to have babies, you're going to live long." And you see this woman who's a very old woman telling the story. Everybody's engaged, and she ends up after she gives that diamond back to the ocean. She lays in her bed and dies. And just like he said, "You're going to die in your bed one day." And she took a nap and she went to sleep. And
That's
it's a powerful testimony. It's a spiritual principle that if you see, you understand, like, wow, that's why it worked, because it speaks to things inside of us that we might not think about or we might not talk about. So when it came to my production company, I got my wife, a couple of friends of mine, no, actually my wife, and then a friend of mine and his wife. So and we form Prophecy Pictures Entertainment, and it's about bringing to the screen something that's foreseen but has been. So you know what I'm saying. So it's something a little
gotcha.
tricky. So because I do believe the concept. There's nothing new under the sun. There's no there's no new story. It's just a new way of telling it.
Absolutely.
So how can we tell stories with even stories in our community, that haven't been told, although they've been told, they haven't been told in this perspective. So
Mhm.
let's tell it in this perspective because it's a cultural thing. It's about culture. You know what I'm saying? And culture translates no matter what. That's what was great about the wood. That I tell you, I get so many different cultures come up and say, "Yo, that's the way I went to high school. That was
Yep.
high school for me."
High school for me as well. So
When I
yeah.
read it, it was the one movie I went on that meeting and said, "Dude, I got to be in this movie." He's like, "What?" I said, "No, I got to be in this movie." So look, I don't care. We're about to shut everybody else out because until you say yes, we're gonna be sitting here. And Rick sat there and said, "Yo," he said, "What's funny is because he wrote it about his life and about his two friends, and he said, my friend that I want you to play, I asked him, I said, hey man, who would you want to play you?" And he said, "Hey man, you ever see this movie called Event Horizon? There's this black cat in there, man. I'm telling you, he's me. He's me. I didn't even pick the wood." Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Even he said, so he said, "That's why I called you." He said, that's why I called for
Wow.
you. He said, because he told me, oh, there's this cat in the event horizon that, oh, he'd be perfect me. He is the perfect me. And I said, get out of here.
You are truly
And
blessed.
truly, just paid, and I was like, okay. And I was like, good, because I'm doing this role. And I tell you, because that was my childhood. It was my growing up. It,
And you grew up not too far from there, right? In Carson?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
I wanted to go to Bernard's, so I was like, look, I went to Sarah at one
Okay.
time. So, and it's like Sarah was all boys at the time, so everybody knew, like, if I had to go to another school, I wanted to go to St. Bernard's because that's where all the pretty girls were. It was co-ed. Yeah, I want to go to St. Bernard's.
Right.
And but I tell you, it's just funny. It's funny how it all turned out. But it's but I get people from Connecticut, from New York, from Oklahoma, white, black, Chinese, Japanese, don't matter. They sit there and be like, oh, the wood was the way I grew up. It might have been a
Literally.
little different. Yeah, it might have been a little different but it was the same. It's the same
Right.
experience we all go through. And that's what I love about that story. It just really transcends cultures, generations, and to this day, I get 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds come to me like, yo, the wood. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I said, what are you doing watching the wood?
Right.
And they're like, are you kidding me? That's a classic. I'm just like, dude, how old are you? Like, I'm 16, man. It's a class out. That's how high school is. And I'm sitting there like, I'm 51. I understand me when I was 16, that was
Right.
my high school.
Right.
You're saying it's still high school? Like, yo, it has not changed. And it just lets
But
me know there's
it's
nothing
going to
new.
continue. I feel like that is one of those classics. The Wood, The Best Man. I think
Yes.
Fridays and all of those movies that we grew up on. I'm just like, yes, this is something that I still have DVDs for. Let's put it that way. As a DVD for sure.
Look at that. Bless you.
Yes. My other thing is that obviously the big screen is something spectacular. Like you had me cutting school to go, see movies. But the other thing is just when I think of television and,
Mhm.
one of my favorite shows, and I really wish they would bring it back, was Girlfriends. And I remember when you were on Girlfriends, and I was just
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
we couldn't wait to get home, get off work to come and see Girlfriends, and you were there. What is it like when you move from being on the big screen to doing television? Because I know it's a different schedule, and
Mhm.
I guess production is different to some degree as
Mhm.
well. So how do you make that transition in between both screens, if you will?
Um, it's fun. Usually we do TV. I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna tell you an actor's secret.
Okay, I'm
We
all
do.
listening
We
all
do.
in.
Okay. We do TV because it keeps us home.
Mhm.
you know,
I got you.
movies usually you travel and
Right.
you're gone for 3 months. You're gone for 4 months. Now, when I was younger, that's all I wanted to do. I wanted to do movies, 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 movies. If I had a preference, I
Hmm.
would still prefer movies, just because in a movie you have the fullness of a script, you have a fullness of a vision, you have a fullness of the message that we're trying to put out there, because every movie has some type of message they're trying to say. So
Certainly.
what are we trying to say? When it comes to television, you don't really have that. It's kind of
Right.
like we go from episode to episode. We
Exactly.
don't know. I don't know exactly where Gray's going to end up at the end of the year because I don't know.
Right.
So it's always like, so when I read it, it's like, ooh, I just happened to read it first, before we shoot it and before people see it. But before he wrote it, I had no idea where my character was going, what he's trying to do, what he's going to do in the future. And so it's kind of hard, but
Right.
it keeps me home. It keeps me in my own bed. It's like,
Right.
So a lot of actors, that's why you see a bunch of actors that just did movies. Now all of a sudden, like, wow, they're doing TV now. Everybody's on TV. It keeps us home. And if we're fortunate to get a good showrunner, a good creator who can write, it fuels it because you do get to dig deeper into the characters, because now instead of 2 hours, we have 24 hours because we have 24 episodes. You know what I'm saying? So now we can go a little deeper with the characters. We can really find some subtleties that maybe we couldn't do in a movie, because a movie is condensed. You know,
Right.
you have a life condensed in 2 hours, now 3 hours, because now movies are getting longer. But it's like, so
Yes.
now movies are getting longer. But
That's the only good thing that came out of the pandemic, is that I could watch or view movies from home. And I was just like, because it's hard. I love movies, but I don't know what
yeah,
it is about when I get into a dark space. I want to nod off and I'm really in there, so being at home, you can take it in chunks and you don't
yeah.
miss anything. You know what I mean?
It's called age. That's what
But
that's
that's
what
what
I
it
do
is.
now.
You
I'm
got
like
it.
this. I can't go to and I love the movies. I
Right.
love the theater. If I go I can't do a 10 o'clock movie. I gotta do an afternoon movie now. If
Right.
I go at
It's
10
over.
o'clock,
Yeah.
I'm coming up. I wake up during the credits
Oh,
every
yeah.
time. I don't. It's like, oh man, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So I don't
Literally.
even go to 10 o'clock no more.
Well, I can share this with you. I went
Mhm.
to, it was a 007 movie. My
Okay.
husband took me to, and it was at the Sinopolis. So it's very fancy,
Hey,
the
I love.
fancy seats,
I know it well. I know it well.
cocktails, all the things and all
That's
the
why.
stuff. I had my first martini, the first and only. And when I opened my eyes again, I was just like, these credits are long. He goes, that was not the opening credits. That's the end. He said, not only were you knocked out, but you were snoring. And people were like, can you do something about her? So there it is.
Been
I was
there
there to
in the same.
support
Check it
though.
out. In the same company, Sinopolis. That's why I see movies too over here. So let me tell you something. I've been there, done. That was the worst case. I think that's when I stopped going to 10 o'clock movies. When I got a glass of wine or something like that before the movie started,
Yes.
did not make it to. I was
So
watching. The last thing I remember was I was watching a trailer. Didn't even see how the movie began. That's what I was like. I didn't even see.
you're like, I'm out of there.
I was gone. And I was
Man,
like, are you kidding me? I said, I missed the whole movie. And
the
they're
whole
like,
thing.
it was funny as everybody was sleeping next to me. My wife was sleeping next to me. I was like, we were both. I was like, okay, there's no point in us going to the movie. We just wasted money.
Tell
we
you.
just wasted money coming here. So
Totally.
yeah. So
Totally.
now, 10 o'clock is not happening. 10 o'clock is not happening. And I used to love 10 o'clock movies. Now, no.
You're like,
Afternoon
no,
have to
it's
be like,
not it. Not it. Well, I want to just take a little bit of a pivot, even though I hate that
okay,
word pivot from the pandemic. I like to think, what was the word we used BC before COVID? And I can't remember what it was, but we're gonna go with, tell me, just in it, and let's kind of bring in the pandemic, because we went through this together, even though we didn't know
mhm,
each other then. But we did go through the pandemic together.
yes, we did.
What is it like coming out on the other side of this life-changing thing that affected us all, and
Mhm,
in the way of not only how you work, but just in how you engage with people? Because we all know that work is, like you said, what you're doing on the screen, that's your job, and
mhm,
you're portraying all these characters. But we also know that our work is always multifaceted. So it's networking, it's looking for your next opportunity, and all those things. How has
mhm.
that changed in a kind of post-pandemic world, if you will, for you?
I wish I could say it changed for the better for me. It's funny because it's different for different people.
Hmm.
Um, I love people. I love conversations.
It
I would
shows.
love I would love for this to be in person, not on the.
Right,
You know
right.
what I'm saying? That's my nature. My
Gotcha.
nature is to see you face to face and having an
Right.
encounter live. Um, so it changed our business dramatically because now everything is via Zoom. Everything is, auditions are via Zoom, no matter where, it's very different. So it's not about getting the connection with a person before,
Right.
you get to a point where you're in this business long enough where we all can act. You know what I'm saying? It gets to a point where there's a certain 50, a certain 100 people, we can all do the job.
Gotcha.
That's not the question. The
Yeah.
question is, who do I get along with? Who do I vibe with? Who can get the most out of me and who can I get the most out of?
Right.
You get that when you're in a room with a person.
Indeed.
It's hard to get you can get it online and on Zoom, but it's harder
Right.
because when you're in the room with a person, you can just feel their energy. So um I miss that. I miss that type of relational thing. When we were doing the show during the pandemic, when we went back to work, we all had these little bubbles. So we all had to sit in our own little
You're
private
like this.
zipping.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, this sucks because we were a group that liked being together, like holding each other, hey, giving a hug. Now
Yes.
we're stuck in the bubble. We're still talking, but it's not the
Right.
same.
Right.
It's like, and now it's a lot better now, because we gradually get out of it. But yeah, I think it. When it comes to the industry, it changed it so much, and I love connection. I love connecting with people, and I think it's an important part of life. I think we lost a lot of that personal
Yes.
connection, through it. So that's what I miss the most before the whole 2020 is that something. There was a time where we could just. I'm not worried about if you're sick. I don't care. It's like it's more about let's just connect and let's talk. Hey, what are you doing? Let, let's hang out. Let's meet up. Let's do something. Now it's more
Exactly.
like it's hard to do all that now. Now it's like places close at 8:30. Like
Literally.
literally. I'm
Hollywood was
like,
shut down. Okay.
shut down.
Yes.
And you're
Yes.
like, and it spilt over to now. It's like even restaurant, my favorite restaurant used to be like, now it's like hold on. Oh yeah, we're about to shut the kitchen. It's 9 o'clock. Who shuts the
Right.
kitchen at 9
And you
o'clock?
don't want to DoorDash it because it's not the same. So
It's not the
it
same.
is not the same. It is not the same.
And I
I
miss it.
what let me just ask this just on a personal
Okay.
level. What
Okay.
is some of your favorite cuisine?
Ooh.
Yeah.
My favorite cuisine is Italian. I love
Okay.
Italian food.
You like
Love
pasta?
Italian food. I love pasta. I love mussels. I love Italian seafood. I love
Cioppino,
fish.
any of that,
Yes,
right?
I
Yes.
love it all. I love it all.
That's awesome.
Um, um, my wife loves Mexican, so now I'm a big
I
fan
could
of
eat
Mexican.
Mexican every day. I promise you.
Okay, my wife,
Every day.
my wife would love to do that. All right, she loves Mexican. So she loves Mexican food, and then I love Chinese.
Okay.
I love Chinese
Yeah,
food,
we can
but
all hang
yeah,
out. I can already tell we
yeah.
can all hang out for sure. For sure. Now, I love that you mentioned your wife throughout the conversation that we've had. Tell me, how did you all meet? I always love to hear a good love story.
Oh, look at this. A good love story. Me and my wife, we met on a set.
Okay.
Yeah, so met on the
There is
set.
love in the set. I love it.
It did turn. It wasn't that way at the set, but it turned out to be that way.
Gotcha.
Um, and we met on the set. She did my makeup.
Okay.
We became very close. Um, I don't know. We just kind of grew. I just
Right.
knew that we were connected somehow. She was with somebody, I was with somebody, but we would talk, and but we knew that like this is the person for me. But I'm doing this thing, she's doing that thing. So, but we were just friends. So, but then God really started moving in this production company for me, and I was just like, wait a minute. She'd be perfect. Yeah, she does makeup now, but she has a mind. She has a producer's mind.
Mhm.
And she said, "That's funny that you said that because everybody tells me I should be a producer." I said, "No, there's something about you." And so before she was my wife, she was my partner in the company. So it wasn't like, we got me.
Right. And then became your partner in life.
And then she became my partner in life. And
Beautiful.
and it was just it's one thing I always, we like to say in our church, it's just like, she's my rib. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like, my missing rib returned, and
Yes,
I really feel that way about her. And
that's beautiful.
yeah, she just blesses my life. I tell you, she blesses my life.
And I'm sure one of the things that I often you see when, I'll say this, I'm generalizing when I say this, but Hollywood marriages, and I hate like it's not Hollywood that married you, it's, you just happen to work in Hollywood,
Yeah,
what
exactly. Right,
but
right.
I love that when you see folks that have been married for great lengths of time, and I think it's absolutely beautiful, but you also know that they put in a whole lot of work because I'm
Mhm.
knocking on 30 years myself, and
Ooh, good for you.
yeah,
All right, look at that.
yeah.
You're a champion. You're a champion.
Look,
Look
we do what we can, okay. But I
at
say that to say this is like, we know that there's compromise that comes with that. And I know that at one point you were talking about the reason why you gravitate to television because you're able to be at home and I'm sure
Mhm.
amongst the family and spending more time with your wife and finding that balance is never easy. I mean, I myself, I'm a corporate events manager. I support a CEO of a very profitable company. So I always say I'm living out of three suitcases, right? I have the
Right, right.
one, the overnight to 2 days, the 3 to 5 days, and then I have a week or more. We got two bags, okay? Because I have
Oh
hair,
wow.
makeup, and shoes. So that's what it is. But with that being said, is finding that ability to maintain that connection is always something I think anybody that's been in any long-term relationship, whether it's husband and wife, or even I think about my relationship with my siblings or your parents and things like that. What are the things that you kind of lean into to foster those connections? Like how do you stay connected even when you're not in the same space, same state, or sometimes
Okay.
even not even the
Same
same
country.
country? Yeah.
Yeah, same country. Um, I tell you, there's a great thing now. It's called FaceTime, which is
Mhm.
amazing. I mean,
Yes.
I'd say
Oh, I FaceTime all
that
the time. Yes.
FaceTime
Yes.
is the key. But what connects us constantly, I always tell people, I say, look, if we can make each other laugh, we're gonna be okay.
That's
Once
right.
we stop laughing, we're having problems.
Houston,
You
we
know,
got a problem.
Houston, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Um, and she makes me laugh, and I think I make her laugh every once in a while.
I can my
And
cheekbones have been activated since I've been talking to you. So I already know. I already know.
so we dig into that. Always, we have to reestablish our date night. We had a date night, but we got to reestablish that because
It's
I tell you that
important.
it's very important. I tell them,
Very important.
very important. You get a date night a week, and we got to reestablish that. So it's what's hard about it is that we're such homebodies and we just like cuddling up at the house. So we do have it, but it's
There's
like
nothing wrong with being booed up. Booed up is
you know
good.
what I'm saying? Boot up is good. But
Absolutely.
I think one of our strong suits is the laughter. We want to keep the laughter alive,
Absolutely.
and uh, and just pushing forward. So we have God and laughter. That's good.
I love
When
that.
it comes
Well,
to us.
look, those are the two things that you need. I think when you make him a pinnacle point in your life. And I always say this is my platform, so I say what I want to say.
That's what.
I
There you
feel
go.
like he has to be definitely a pinnacle point in your life, and I feel through him all things are possible. And I mean,
That's right.
you're evident of that being here on my platform. So I thank you for
Hey,
that, and I
oh,
thank
look
you
at that.
for representing the way you do in Hollywood and still maintaining, your faith and leading with that too.
Amen. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that.
Well, before we close out, I want to give you an opportunity. I always do this with anybody that blesses me with their presence and shares their experiences with me on my platform, is to say, if you have anybody, I know that you started off sharing earlier with some folks that have changed, the trajectory of your life, and starting with your mom. But if you have
Hmm.
anybody that you want to shout out, the floor is yours.
Look at that. I want to shout out my ace. I got a ace out there. I want to shout out my cousin Henry.
Yes.
Um, yeah, without Henry, I tell you, he helped me through some very long days. I tell you, just while we were younger, when we were teenagers, when we were young adults, he's always been there. He's been somebody I can lean on. He used to write my poems for the girls I used to like back in high school.
Love it.
Oh man, he was like my Sarah knows the boys reactor back there. He'd be like, "Yo, write me a letter," and he'd write a nice little poem for me. Um, and I tell you, so I always want to give him a shout out. I want to shout out my brother Woody, who always cared for me. He always kind of surrounded me, protected me as my older brother. He made sure I didn't do the things that he did. He always threatened to murder me
There
if
you
I ever
go.
got into gangs. Or he's like, "Look, man, you try to do any of the stuff I did, I'm gonna hurt you." Kept me
Right.
on the straight path and kept me out of trouble. And I always will love him and appreciate him for that. And of course, my dad gave me my drive.
Mm.
So Clarence Jones, he gave me, you know, God really showed him, you know, showed me through him, through his life, how to pursue something that was the purpose of your life, when it comes to work. And my dad was a professional baseball player, and then he turned
Yes.
into a professional coach. And I tell you, he just got on the bus one day from Ohio and was like, I'm gonna play a professional sport. Which one? I don't know which one yet, but it's gonna be a professional one.
It's going to be one
It,
of them.
it's gonna be one of them. It
I
ended up
love
being
it.
baseball. And but he had and I remember telling him and my mom, like, I wanted to be an actor, and they were like, my mom cried. My mom was on the, "Oh no, you're gonna be on my couch for the rest of your life. Oh no." And my dad was like, "Yo, man, I was pretty good in football and stuff like that. Hey, you should play football." And Tuskegee's been calling for the team, which they were trying to get me on their team. And I was just like, "No, I'm just gonna act." "Oh, well, football can lead into acting. Look at Burt Reynolds, look at all these other actors." I said, "Yeah, but I'm just gonna go to acting." And he didn't want it for me, but he respected me because he did it. Because I said, "Nah,
100%.
this is what I'm gonna do." And he's like, "Well, what's your plan B?" I said, "There ain't no plan B. I said, plan B is to finish plan A."
Confidence.
Yeah,
I love it. Yes.
and he was like, and he always respected that of me. And so yeah, so I thank him for supporting me after that point. My spiritual father, Lobi Langomba.
Yes.
He is from Kenya, but he is Congolese, and he's just been a father to me in the faith. He's been blessing me. He's opened my eyes to things that have God has shown me, but I was unclear about things, and He happened to release those things through my spiritual father. So I thank Him for that. My wife Christy is always amazing. My children, Aubrey, Sydney, Elijah, Josiah, all are amazing in their own right. I got two singers. The two girls are singer songwriters. I got an
All right.
actor. The 21-year-old Elijah, he's following in my footsteps as an actor. And then I got the young football player, Josiah, who's in the bedroom right now making noise. But yeah, so I got that. And I love, I work with the best group of people on the Rookie. I tell you, I love these people. They're so kind, so supportive, um, so just creative and intelligent. And I just love being with them and sharing time with them, and being able to sow in their life and them in mine. So, I just want to shout out all the Rookie cast and crew.
One of my
Alexi,
favorite shows.
Alexi, who's the creator of it, and he just really, I always thank him. I said, man, thank you for writing this show, because I tell you, you brought together the best group of people, and they just, inspire me daily with that. Um, and I got the and finally, but the most important, my Lord Jesus. I tell
That's
you,
right.
My Lord Jesus, He gets the biggest shot. And without Him, I can do nothing. I'll tell you that right now. Without Him, I can do nothing, and I am nothing. Everything that I have, everything that I do is because of Him. It's His will for my life that I was fortunate enough to believe. I always tell people, I
Absolutely.
say, you got to believe God. If you believe Him, all things are possible. But if you hesitate, because everything He shows you, it's impossible in a way. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Literally.
it's always impossible. We know it's possible. It's just not possible for us. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? I get it's possible for them, but it's not possible for me.
Yes. Yes.
And but when He shows you that, no, this is where I want you to be, it's just like, you just gotta believe Him. Just when it comes to your show, your platform that you create, you just gotta believe Him. You know, it's
Gotta
like,
believe. Gotta
you gotta
believe.
believe Him, because it seems so far off and so far fetched, but it's
And
not
yet
really
here
that
we
far
are.
fetched. And here we are,
And here
because
we are.
it's really not that far fetched. It's really
No.
not that far off. It's just what you believe. So I thank Him. I thank Him. I praise Him. I worship Him. And like I said, without Him, I'm nothing. So He gets the final and the biggest and the best shout out.
I
Thank
love
you,
that.
Lord.
Well, you know what? I have to piggyback on that.
Mhm,
I share that same sentiment. And without him, nothing is possible.
mhm,
And I also want to give you a big thank you. Thank
mhm,
you for how you showed up for people like myself, people in our community, and people in communities that are far reaching outside of our community, because of you, there's young Black men and young Black women that can recognize that whatever they set their mind to, whether they chose it or it chose them, they can
mhm.
do it. And
That's right.
so thank you for all of the characters that you've given us in the way of entertainment, but also lessons to be learned. And I thank you for blessing my platform. I am incredibly honored. And seriously, I feel like I gained a new friend today, and I've
You
learned
did.
so much. I appreciate you. I
You did.
really
I
do.
appreciate you too so much, Cheryl. I thank you again. I tell you, it's funny, it's like, you know, interviews and are a lot like parties sometimes. Like, oh, yo, hey, come to my party next week. Okay, yeah, great, I love it. And then Next week come, be like, oh man, I gotta go to a party. You know what I'm saying? And then you get there,
Right.
you're like, oh, thank God I came to this party. You know, so you're like,
Yes,
oh,
I know
but
exactly what you mean.
you know, you're like, oh man. So when Henry calls, it's like, oh yeah, I got this interview. Oh, okay, right. And I tell you what a blessing this was. I tell you, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for inviting me. Like you said, I'm forever changed from this conversation. You bless me so much. And I just want to thank you for having me. I don't know what else to say, but thank you for having me. This was such a blessing for me. So
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
I'm honored. Well, as I close out, I always say this, it's important for us to check on the folks that, support us and love us. And it's also important for us to check on ourselves. And so with that being said, take good care of each other, but more importantly, take good care of yourself.
Amen. Amen. I love it. That's amazing.